How to better manage school and sports. Now, this is a kind of thinking that I'd say a lot of people, including my younger self, would have had. And so this video will be from myself who has already been there and done that. And I'm, I guess, around 4 years ahead of that. So I've had time to reflect and figure out what is the best way to manage. First up, if you ask yourself, what are the things which take up most of your time right now? Like, what are the 4 things? And then think about what are the things that you value most in your life. Are those the same things, right? And so for me, the 4 things that took up the most time in my life back when I was around 15 to 16 were school, of course, that's really important, swimming, which is pretty expected, and the next 2 were social media. I was spending a lot of time on my phone, on social media, and a lot of time on video games. There was this game that I used to play back then called Destiny 2. There's like a lot of story behind it and it like hooked me in, and all my friends were playing it too. So I spent lots of time on that. So looking back at that time, the things I should have valued most in my life were should have purely been school, swimming, and learning in a sense of education and bettering myself personally. And say, this sounds quite Asian of me, but genuinely, those are the things I look back at and think I would have been so much better, and that would have brought me the most success in my life today if I had started it earlier than I did, right? Which might have been around 2 or 3 years ago. And looking back, because of spending heaps of time on games and social media, I'd basically sleep really late and I'd be tired, and then I would not be able to recover from the training sessions that I had, that evening. And then the next morning I'd just be ruined at school. And so it's just like a chain of events that cause bad outcomes. And look, I admit sometimes that happens to me nowadays too, but I'm just a little bit more aware of it, so I'm getting a bit better at that. Sometimes I think, what if I spent 1,000 hours doing something else, right? Because this is coming from me playing games. I used to play, as I said, Destiny 2. Used to play some Fortnite when it came out. And I'd say overall I sunk around 1,000 hours into those 2 games alone. And so yeah, what if I spent 1,000 hours doing something else? Maybe it could have been sleeping a little bit more by not staying up late and gaming. That could have given me a little bit more recovery. I could have been that 10% better at swimming, or even 10% better at school. Maybe even it wouldn't be for studying that 1,000 hours, but it could be something for self-development, like reading more books. Like one of the books that I've read, right, is this book called The 4-Hour Workweek, right? Another book I read is like The Deep Work, right? So just, if I had read these books that have helped me develop personally, spent that 1,000 hours doing that educational stuff, then how much better of a person, how much more wise and worldly of a person could I have become at this age that I am now, so 20, right? So without a doubt, I didn't do a bad job in studying or swimming, but my point is, at the end of the day, that if I had optimized these areas when I was younger, or if someone told me how to improve beyond my expectations at that time, I would have done way, way better than I have now, right? So you only have 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. It's pretty stock standard. If you spend that time doing things that aren't benefiting your health or learning or pushing yourself towards your purpose, right? Or in this case, the athleticism, then that time is really spent to hold you back, to hinder you from getting where you want to be. The things I'll talk about right now are the things I would tell my younger self. This might not apply directly to you, but to be honest, you'll be able to relate to at least one of the 2 points that I'm about to talk through. So number 1, quite simply, what I'd say to myself would just be to get off your phone, right? Even now, I'm still like spending a little bit of time on my phone, a lot less than I was previously, but definitely get off your phone. If you could, this is the message to myself right now. Check how much time you're spending on your phone. Especially nowadays, you should be able to check your screen time if you have an iPhone. And there's probably a similar feature if you have like an Android phone too. And this is essentially how much time you're wasting. You might justify it as, oh, well, I'm spending time connecting with my friends and so on, right? Yes, you are, but then what are you foregoing, right? You're foregoing sleep. You're foregoing extra study. You're foregoing extra reading that could help you in the future, right? There's just all these things that you could do, but you're spending it talking to your friends and scrolling through social media. If you really want to succeed on your main goals, right? So your main goals, I assume, again, I'm talking to my previous self, would be swimming, studying, and learning, right? So really, if you want to succeed on your main goals better than anyone else, you have to do what no one else is doing, right? So everyone around you would be on social media, on Instagram, on, I'd say Snapchat. I don't really use that too much, but everyone would be doing those things. And there's a good saying, right? If you do the things that 99% of the people in the population do, then you'll achieve 99% of the results that are able to be achieved. So essentially what I'm saying is mediocre people will do mediocre things. And so if you do the things that they do, you will achieve the same results. And so here's some ways to improve your ability to get away from that stuff. So sometimes when the topic comes up, people will tell me, right, so I'll ask them, why do you still stay on social media? And they'll say, oh yeah, I still keep social media because I don't want to lose contact with people. And that's an interesting one because to me, it's like you have, say, the maximum of 10 people you can really keep up with. And over that amount, it's like, what's the point, right? You have your phone, you have your phone number. If the people really want to message you, if they're so important to you in your life, they'll message you on your phone number. It's really not that difficult. And so that's just something I kind of took forward. I deleted the social media that I had, and instantly I just stopped talking to so many people. And that kind of revealed that a lot of the people that I was keeping in contact with weren't really useful or gainful to my life. And now, like, on my phone, I have the people that I do care about and value. They message me on my phone number, and that's it, right? So you just simplify your life through that way. Get rid of that social media stuff, like the scrolling through the For You page and whatever. And so it just improves your overall quality of life, gives you a bit more time as well. It's a bit of a hard truth, but the people that genuinely don't mean too much to you, they won't keep in touch with you if you delete the social media. Same with games, same with everything. Number two, this definitely would relate to a lot of guys, I'd say, because just in general, myself, when I was younger, I'd play lots of games. Lots of my friends were guys, they'd also play games. That's where I kind of get my assumption from. And so really, this is what I'd say to my younger self as well, this number two. 15-year-old me, get off games. It's really not that important, right? Ask yourself why you're playing the games that you're playing. And then ask yourself, is this really what you want to achieve? So if you want to balance swimming and school, that is what your priorities are, and that's what they should be. And that's what you need to focus on. And you might justify playing games as your break time. But to be honest, when you play games, you're not having a break, right? One of the games I used to play was Destiny, and in that game, you could play against other people. And as much as of a break you would think that is, it's really not. It's like stimulating your brain. It's like making you concentrate on killing the other guy or achieving a certain objective. And that's by no means a break for your brain. And so 15-year-old me, your priorities would definitely have been spending time with your family if it weren't for school or studying and swimming, and then sleeping. That's really it. And maybe learning and reading on the side. So stick to only these things. For example, you want to become great at swimming. What helps you to get to that end goal? Is scrolling on social media helping you to swim better? Is it taking away from your sleep, which then makes it harder for you to swim well? And then ask yourself, how badly do you want it, right? If you don't mind being average at swimming or at school, then you really don't need to worry. Just keep spending 8 hours a day on your phone. So don't get your sleep, eat those unhealthy, nice tasting foods. No one's going to stop you from doing these things necessarily. Just like no one will stop you from improving your habits, no one these days, not even your parents, will stop you from doing the bad habits because they themselves don't really know enough about it, right? Your successes, in the most part, are up to you to achieve, and no one really will achieve them for you, right? No one's going to turn up to the session for you. No one's going to do the homework. No one's going to revise. And so in that way, your failures and your inability to achieve the goals that you set for yourself are also in part something that you cause. So compare this to swimming or even studying, right? Training, studying, it's not the funnest it can be at points in time, right? It takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of prep, but when you win a race, right, when you get into finals, when you swim well at meets, the effect of this is really long term, and it stays with you in kind of a positive way, like the memory that you have of that moment in time. For example, one of my best swims happened right before I finished swimming competitively. It was a 100 breaststroke race, and I remember it quite clearly. So it was the last day of that meet, one of the last races as well, so I was feeling a bit tired. But of course it was I thought it was my main event. So it's tired from the past races, but I was like to myself, you have nothing to lose, just send it. And so that's exactly what I did. And I set the fastest long course time I'd ever done. And I also won that race as well. And so look, I forgot the date of that race. I forgot the meet as well. I don't even really remember where that medal went. I don't know. But I remember that moment in time. And so it's the hard work, right, that comes before the race and all the training and all that stuff that makes this stuff meaningful, that makes that race meaningful and so memorable. Because without the hard work that you put into training, winning a race or winning a medal would have really not meant anything to me. And so look, at the end of the day, you'll never really remember all the training sessions and all the sacrifices you make, but the things that you will remember are the singular moments in time where you reach the peak of the mountain that you're climbing. And so that might be winning a race, it might be finishing your HSC, might be getting accepted into a university scholarship. But something to consider is that the things that you do in your day-to-day life will affect the outcomes that you have in the future. And so really you're doing this for your future self, not for yourself now. If I had kept playing the games in university, right, if I didn't stop and not studied as hard, would I have been able to achieve the marks that I did? And then would I have been able to get selected into scholarships today? Definitely not. It just doesn't happen like that. And so you might not notice it now, but definitely the things that you do which distract you from the things that you value most in your life. So the priorities that we discussed earlier in the video, it will do you a lot more harm than it will do you good in the future. My advice to my younger self or to you is to start figuring out ways to get rid of them, right? Your future self will thank you for the work that you did previously or in the moment right now.